Today, we spent a lot of time covering the hoorah, so to speak, around the possible government shutdown and MAGA Republicans' actions behind the rally cries of Elon Musk, is what I'll call them. And I thought adding just a little bit more onto that coverage with Fox News liberal Jessica Tarlov and her take on it would be a great way for us to end the day. So I've lined up what I consider to be the best clips from the five, and we'll be back after with the very much needed context.
What were deficit hawks when Joe Biden is in office have woken up and said no problem with a 2-year suspension of the debt ceiling. Chip Roy, who's been a staunch supporter of President Trump, a principled conservative, now Trump's going after him. Mike Pence is defending him. So those are where the lines are drawn on the sand. You know, who should we hang? Who should we not hang on January 6th? He's saying, what are you doing going after someone like Chip Roy, who's saying, where are the spending cuts? And the American public, to your point, they voted for a streamlining that involved spending cuts, which weren't in this bill. They weren't in the bill before, and they're not in this as well. Also, you say the people wanted this. The richest man in the world wanted this. Elon Musk did, and programs that came out of it. What's your problem with a bipartisan cancer research program for $190 million? A drop in the bucket of what this is. Those are the kinds of things that came out of this.
I think we've personally fallen for the trap of letting Trump get a step ahead, where he's building the apparatus to force the government's hand in cutting social programs, as he wants to first use these authoritarian methods to force the debt limit to be risen against, the threat of this government shutdown and the optics of all that and the emotional damage it'll cause those who will lose their wages, all of this, right? So he can then pass these super expensive tax cuts for corporations and rich people that will run up our debt and our deficit spending like they always do, like they did during his last term, where he can then say, hey, we have to cut spending. I mean, our debt is out of control. And then he'll probably say it was Biden, Biden did it under his term and it's just now lasting over or something, and we of course need to keep the tax cuts, but WIC, food stamps, Medicare, yeah, Social Security, get rid of them, right? So my Doge committee, we've identified all this waste, and by waste, that's what they'll mean. They're just going to weaken these things, and that's Project 2025, by the way. Told you so. I mean, I love how the fake news left was spot on with that one.
And the reason that people are saying that Trump is the unelected president, not only because of the hundreds of millions of dollars that he paid to get Donald Trump elected, is that Donald Trump wasn't kicking up a fuss about the bill before Elon Musk got a bee in his bonnet. He wasn't saying anything. And then Musk gets mad and floats things about bioweapons labs and the stadium, the DC stadium thing, which he got completely wrong. And suddenly this is happening. So I don't want anyone to have a day without their paycheck, let alone during the holidays. And Donald Trump suffered through this. Remember when he closed the government for 35 days over the holidays, and his public perception tanked a little bit at that moment. And obviously we don't want that. But
now let's be really clear on what exactly happened here. An unelected bureaucratic billionaire who happens to be the richest man on the world, not just any billionaire, essentially paid his way into an advisor role in the government that he didn't have to get confirmations for or anything. And he's already profiting off government contracts. He realized here, hey, if I want my rich guy, my corporation, Tesla, SpaceX, if I want these tax cuts that will, of course, disproportionately benefit him than anybody else, then I have to figure out a way to get the government to get rid of the debt limit. That pesky little debt limit is going to prevent this from being possible. And he decided the way to do that was to threaten Republicans first with threats of funding a primary challenge against them if they don't then shut the government down or get the debt limit raised. It's one of the two. Forget working bipartisanly, which is something that, again, is going to leave workers without paychecks on Christmas, families relying on benefits without them. And it's authoritarian, and it's not how the government works. They also don't have the majority to do this in any realistic fashion, and it's why it fell flat on its face. But they're doing this also, the unelected rich guy can get the government to do his bidding and he can get his way. This is exactly what the right pretends they're against. This is why they elected Trump to fight this, the swamp and the deep state that's doing this. I mean, this is exactly what they pretend that George Soros does without any evidence, or Zuckerberg, which side note, by the way, it's kind of funny because now he's donating and supporting Trump, it kind of shows he just supports whoever he thinks the incoming president is going to be, because he's a tech bro and he wants his tech bro businesses to get favorable rulings and funding and things like that, and not just some, he's a Democrat conspiracy. But now Elon is doing the George Soros thing in their face and they support it. And the psychology on it is kind of interesting because the most interesting thing it shows is, first off, these people don't actually think this is wrong. They just don't want it used against them because when their side is doing it, they feel like they're winning. So they cheer it on. They just want to win. Like, that's the weirdest part of this is to them, for politics, they just want to win. And it's by any means. And it's like, this isn't sports. This is our life we're talking about. Like, he is a billionaire doing things at the behest of the working class to benefit himself. But because, he puts R by his name and he voted Trump, it's like, cool. It's weird. You know what I mean? Like, again, and they justify supporting Elon doing this with their accusation of the left doing it, despite their accusation of the left doing it being completely unproven conspiracy. And it's just like what a weird timeline we've fallen into where this is just the norm in political discourse.